Hello, Algebra 1 and Algebra 1 Honors. We're going to go over our 9.4a samples. This will be for Tuesday, March 24th. Our first four problems we're going to solve with no calculator. Our last sample problem 5, we will use a calculator, so let's leave our calculators off to the side for now. On sample 1, our first job is to realize that to get down to x in solving this equation, we need to undo the 4, and that will be by dividing by 4 on both sides. So I'm going to need to work out what is 144 divided by 4, and this is where I've worked it out. So I see that it's 36. So x squared is equal to 36. Now I need to undo the square here. Remember, squares and square roots are opposite operations, so I need to take the square root of both sides to get my equation down to just x. When I take the square root of both sides, of course, I do need to find both the positive and the negative root, so that will give me x is equal to both positive or negative 6. If I don't want to write it this way in this efficient method where I'm showing two values for x kind of in one place, I can also write x is equal to 6 comma negative 6. That would be the same thing as what you see here. There are two values of x that solve this equation. Sample 2. Well, in sample 2, we're going to find out that there is no solution for x on the real number line. Let's see why that happens. In our first step here, we're going to subtract 18 on both sides, and that will give us x squared is equal to negative 4. Well, we want to undo the square again, so we're going to take the square root of both sides of the equation. That'll bring us down to x, but over here when we try to work out the square root of negative 4, we're going to find no solution. There is no number on the real number line that answers the question, what is the square root of a negative number? So we simply report no solution. Sample 3. Sample 3, we're solving 2x squared minus 20 equals 78. First step, we're going to add 20 to both sides. That'll give us 2x squared equals 98. Then we're going to divide by 2 on both sides to undo the 2 that is attached to that x squared with multiplication, and that will give us x squared is equal to 49. I reasonably can work out 98 divided by 2 mentally. I know 100 divided by 2 is 50. Two numbers less than 100 is 98, so 98 divided by 2 must be 1 less than 50, giving me 49. Alternatively, you could work that in long division off to the side. Then I take the square root of both sides to get down to x. So I'm going to take the square root of x squared and get positive or negative root 49. And that's going to give me two values for my x, both positive and negative 7. Sample 4, we're still working without a calculator at this point. On sample 4, we're going to add 6 on both sides as a first step to get this down to the value of y. That will give us 16y squared is 9. Then we divide both sides by 16, and that will give us y squared is equal to 9 over 16. Then we take the square root of both sides, and we're going to find out what is the square root of 9 separately from what is the square root of 16. They're both perfect squares. And of course, I will have two values, a positive and a negative value, because I do need to report both of the roots. The square root of 9 is 3, the square root of 16 is 4, the radical is gone, and our answer is y is equal to positive or negative 3/4. Our last sample problem, we'll need to use a calculator. At the end of the problem is when we'll use it, of course. We'll round our answer that we get on our calculator to the nearest hundredth. That is a typical place to round when you are solving a quadratic equation, and the number is not just a whole number. So our first step is to add 9 to both sides. That'll give us 6x squared equals 48. Then divide both sides by 6, and that's going to give us x squared is equal to 8, because 48 divided by 6 is 8. Then we want to undo that square, so we're going to take the square root of both sides, and that's going to give us positive or negative root 8. Now it's time to pull out your calculator and key in the square root of 8. On your calculator, you should see these digits. And of course, we're getting both a positive and a negative root, so we need to report that in our answer. Once we see what's on our calculator, we're going to round off to the second place past the decimal point. That's the hundredths place. So the 8 will actually tell us to round that up. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that right here, since that was not done correctly originally. So just like in regular class, I will fix my mistake. So let's go ahead and round that up to 2.83, and now we're done. Okay, so please complete the rest of the lesson now that you have this part of it done, and we'll see you again next time soon.